So thank you, Matt, very much for your willingness to do this and sharing your knowledge and your expertise and what you've learned with whomever is here. And I'll turn it over to you, unless Jesse tells me differently. Cool. All right, Matt, take it away. I'll turn off my video.
Great. Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Matt Letter. I've been teaching online lessons for many years. As the great Doc Severinsen would say, this is what works for me. Don't blame me if it doesn't work for you. I think it's what works for me may not work for you. You may need to try a different strategy. I think this is all trial and error as you go about doing this. I've been teaching online lessons, I would say, over 10 years. And while I don't consider myself an expert necessarily in this online teaching, I've had a lot of success with teaching students online. I've seen a lot of criticism before this event happened that we're all in right now. I've seen a lot of criticism stating, I don't think online lessons are productive. I don't think this is going to be a useful thing. It's better to be in person, and there's certainly some great aspects of being in person that is preferable over the online format, but here we are. So how do we make the best of it? I would say that in terms of the just proof of the pudding, you know, if I would have to say that the argument, if online teaching is inadequate, why have I had so much success? There are some things I've learned over the years that have helped me become a better online teacher. I've got students that have won All-State, placed very high in All-State around the nation. I've had older students win graduate assistantships. I've had students win military jobs or various local orchestra jobs, or maybe they were an audition for, I had two students this past year one in Arizona, one in Florida, that auditioned for a solo spot for their marching band, and both of them came out on top. So there are some things you can go about. It's a different format. You're going to have to adjust to this, but there are a lot of possibilities of teaching online. One of the benefit things, this kind of goes on not just to the school teachers, not the professors and my collegiate comrades out there, but also the freelance musicians. There's a lot of freelance musicians out there that have no income right now. How do I bring in income? Well, online lessons is a great way. Support your local, the musicians out there. Buy an album, take a lesson. I heard Saul the other day that someone said, use this time as a gift. Get your stuff together on your horn. Reach out to some of these great players. They're available right now. Make the best of the time. One of the beneficial things I would say, as the freelance musician or collegiate educator or secondary educator is, wow, the internet is a vast thing. I taught students in Europe. As a matter of fact, one gentleman from Europe came over to the US and is stuck right now, and he's planning to take some online lessons with me. I've got students all over the country. I've had students in Canada. It's just amazing. The hardest thing for me has been is keeping track of the time zone. So if you're a freelance musician, please make sure that you understand what time zone you're working in. For example, there are some spots in Arizona that are certain times of the year that, like I'm on Central Time, at times I was 1 hour behind, and right now I'm 2 hours. There's 2 hours difference. And so you got to make sure that you're familiar with the different time zones. Just food for thought. Now, a lot of us that have to teach in an online format for college or the secondary setting, we're working with more local students. Before I get into my presentation, just to bring something up that just happened literally like an hour ago, I was contacted by an administrator at the college I teach. And by the way, I'm a music director and instructor at Gadsden State Community College, and I've taught Ivy League schools, Brown University, community college, state institutions. I was a military musician, so I've lived all over the country. I've worked with a lot of different individuals, and got a lot of perspective, is what I would say, across the U.S. And the administrator that approached me through email today, he's just doing his job, but coming from above, stating that we've got to put all of our applied lesson materials online in Blackboard by today. Like, I need it right now. Now I understand that the urgency for this, to make sure that students feel comfortable, that we've got ourselves together, at the collegiate environment or secondary environment. We as teachers, we got you. We're going to take care of you. This is going to be taken care of. The thing, though, with administrators is sometimes they don't understand. It's kind of hard to understand. It's 1-to-1 ratio, the applied lesson setting. So I rebutted back with, hey, I will definitely put something out. We got the students. We're going to take care of these students. We will take care of the students. But I have to put very blanketed, general concepts. Like, here's some tips on working online. Here's my expectations as we work online. Here's some sample, maybe embed some YouTube videos into Blackboard on how do I, log on to this whatever platform you're going to use, and best practices and such. And maybe you can incorporate some listening videos that you want your whole studio to watch. There's a numerous of possibilities. But the thing you have to explain to your administrator is that lessons are very individualized. It may be a blanketed class. This is applied trumpet or applied saxophone, applied voice, and so on. But it is very different, and it's very individualized. And it's something that in our studies, you can't necessarily always plan for the entire semester as you would a normal lecture class, because from lesson to lesson, that we've got to monitor student progress and kind of adjust to those kinds of things. Let's get into what are some things to keep in mind as we teach? How have I had success? What are some obstacles I've run into? And how do we go about doing this? First thing, don't panic. Be positive. I'm telling you, the impressions that we give on our students, if we're freaking out, the students are going to freak out. So don't freak out. Everything's going to be fine. Humor goes a long way. So I would definitely keep a good positive attitude. Become familiar with a variety of online platforms. Okay, here we go. So we're using Zoom right now, but there are other online platforms that you can use. In the last presentation, as we go through here, I don't want to be redundant and repeat a lot of things that were made in the last presentation. So I believe that other presentation will be posted online, and maybe combine both Justin's presentation and my presentation, and kind of gather the do's and don'ts, and take what you like and get rid of the stuff you don't like. It's fine. We're all different and teach in a different way. I would say that in terms of the platforms, you've got FaceTime, you've got Facebook video, you've got Skype, you've got Google Hangouts, it goes on and on and on. Here's the thing that I would argue, in my years of teaching, my students, it is good to have one platform. You bring everyone together. Let's all learn this together. However, you have to remember, especially during this time, the students are everywhere. They're freaking out. Their families may be wigging out. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm worried about, I don't do well with online education. Can't tell you how many college students say, I don't want to take an online class because I don't do well in that. And here they are. All the classes are now online. So this is my argument. Be familiar with a variety of online platforms. So if a student is familiar and does use social media, for instance, I use Facebook all the time. I use Messenger all the time. Use that Messenger perhaps. And we'll go into some of these, the problems of using some of these applications, but I would argue that you could still, and I've done this for like 10 years. I've done this for 10 years. And by the way, I started this because I had to pay for my student loans. And that's how it started. But then I kind of it's infectious because I had such an effect on a large group of people worldwide. So FaceTime, if the student's familiar with that, all you have to do is log on FaceTime. You click the little video link, boom, you're talking to one another. And then you just got to follow common practices in terms of the computer placement and where you play, and we'll get into that. If a student is familiar with Skype, awesome. However, I would say that Skype, I've been kind of moving away from the past couple of years because it can be spotty depending on a student's connection speed. However, I do have one student in Arizona that he loves Skype, and we use it. And as a matter of fact, I taught him Sunday night, and it was no problem. I even recorded some things with my phone, and it sounds great. I get enough information where I can help that student. FaceTime. Now the limitation there is you have to have Apple product, but FaceTime, you can definitely use FaceTime. We're all familiar with that. Even fancier things like Facebook Portal, it actually moves around with you as you move. So that might be something to look into as well. It's very cool. You can walk around the room. It follows you around. It's like a video, very advanced video conferencing. So I would argue be familiar with more than one platform so that you can meet the student halfway. Let's take out the question marks. But I certainly understand if you don't want to learn a variety of those and you just want to, let's put everyone on this because I don't want to have to remember which application each student's using. I have just found over years, I get more students and less stress if I'm willing to bend towards them in terms of the online platform. But again, there's pros and cons with using different each one. Um, there are countless resources available to you. I can't tell you anybody that owns a car or a home, how many times have we gone onto YouTube and looked up, I don't want to pay such and such money. I get a quote, I am not paying that. I don't have the bread for that. I'm going to look up YouTube and do this myself. There's plenty of online instruction to do this. Also, social media. We're doing this on social media right now. I would say this particular semester especially, I put out just a couple things out into the world saying, any suggestions on smaller group ensemble arrangements, or I've got a student in need that needs a particular mouthpiece, or I put a picture of an old case up, and I had people reaching out to me. I have not asked for anything, and people are willing to help. And this is before all of these events have happened. This is the power of social media. Reach out to one another. And this time there's a greater urgency to be social anyway. So make sure to use these social platforms to interact with one another. We're going to be craving it in weeks to come. So let's help each other out. We're all doing the same thing. It's about helping the student. In terms of these resources. There are Facebook groups, and towards the end of this, we kind of refer to that. Justin did a great job in his handout, the big long list of resources that you can look at and kind of refer to. I have seen a lot of Facebook groups talking about, hey, let's get together and talk about what are you shedding in the woodshed. This is great. Camaraderie, being social, jam of the week. Post a video, interact with one another, encourage your students to do so. That might be a side project you do. I think Justin was saying this earlier and I would agree with him, that we have to be creative in our online teaching. It's not the same as teaching in person. And I'm going to give you a lot of suggestions here. When you're meeting a student online, we have to remember rules of etiquette. I think it's real important, especially when working with younger students. I've always let parents or grandparents or whatnot be present in the room if they feel a little uncomfortable. Hey, my child is going to be meeting with someone we don't know online. I certainly understand, and there's some legality issues there too to kind of be careful of. Well, let's just all remember, be professional. You don't have to get this dressed up, but I wanted to wear this to prove a point that you can be professional even online. I think it's good to keep that stature of professionalism when we're working with students. And remember some of the same rules apply as if you were in person as if you're online. And some of these things are no-brainers, but I think they need to be spelled out, certainly. When I worked study with Ellis Marsalis, one of the things he said is you need to break things down to the lowest common denominator, where the point where you cannot not understand it. So make sure that you understand everything from the basic level moving up. So some of the obvious things, reach out to your colleagues if you need help. You're welcome to reach out to me or Justin, or there's a variety of groups out there. There's a higher ed, I think I've got it listed on my handout, higher ed music lessons in the wake of coronavirus. And you can look on there. People are adding to it routinely, videos, comments. That's a great Facebook post. It's continually being updated. So it's awesome to see people reaching out and helping one another. In terms of teaching online lessons, it is different. You will get into the groove of things. Just be patient with it. Um, what I would do when setting up for a lesson, cheers, I would have a glass of water or a drink nearby. I would have pen, pencil, maybe two of them, just readily available. I would have a piece of paper or something so you can take notes down if needed. Have the resources available. I've got a music stand on one side. I've got instruments on instrument stands here in my practice studio. So just be prepared for your lesson, not just in terms of the organization and being prepared for it, but within the lesson space, just as you would in person. Okay, camera angle. How do we set up our camera angle? Most computers, I'm using my computer microphone and the camera right now. It's fine. It's fine. Now here's the thing. I'm a working musician. I gig all over the country. I travel, and there's been times where I've had to give lessons. I don't want to give up student progress or whatnot, and I've got to take my phone. So if I'm taking my phone somewhere, or maybe this is the only thing I have because I don't have a computer readily available, I'm going to teach all my applied lessons on a phone. Or maybe you're a freelance musician. After all this is lifted, you can use this resource later on. When you're teaching on with a phone, don't do this. When you've got your phone down, people don't want to look up your nose. So make sure, and this is common sense stuff, but some people will make sure you're looking at the video so you can kind of see where your face is being presented to the other person. So kind of arc it back or prop it up. I've also had a younger student, his grandfather was trying to set up an iPad and having so much problems just propping up the iPad. It was nothing to do with technology. It was the non-technology aspect of things of just how should I prop up my iPad so my grandson can get a trumpet lesson. So kind of offer suggestions and kind of think that, and again, humor goes a long way. It's all good. All good. We're going to get through this together. It's fine. That's the kind of attitude you should probably have. Into your first lesson or second lesson. This is what I would say, especially your first lesson. If I teach anything on the first lesson, that is icing on the cake. And most of the time, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I do teach something on the first lesson, or at least give an assignment or whatnot. But a lot of times the first lesson, like a lot of times if you're teaching a student for the first time, it's getting there, getting to know one another, and then working out the expectations. What are your goals? What are you looking for in this lesson? That kind of thing. Setting up the ground as a foundation to kind of work from there. In this setting, a lot of it is going to be figuring out the technology. How do I get my camera right? Or should I go out and buy this or that? It's getting used to this format of teaching. Not a big deal. You will get through this. Your second lesson, there might be a little bit of tweaking, but usually by the end of the second lesson, you're good. You're rolling. It's no problem. But just if there's a big storm or something, sometimes that can interrupt a signal from time to time, depending on your internet connection. Again, and that's something you got to remember too. When you're teaching students, you have to know that it's the internet connection on your side and the other side. I pay for a higher band or higher speed internet so that I'm good to go. I don't have any worries on my end. Now I'm going to show you something here. I'm in my office here, and I've got something I can do with my lighting. So see, my lighting just goes down and down and down. And I could turn I've got a dimmer on my overhead backlights too. But I would say make sure your lighting is good. I'm going to put this back up now. You don't want to be too bright, and it's just, you can do that. That's fine, but it gets kind of bright against my screen. So I'm going to kind of bring this thing down in terms of the lighting. Think about your lighting. And these are the kinds of things I would work on before you start the lesson. Kind of like, where do I want how do I want my lighting? How do I want my camera angle? Just all these things come into play. Setting up the space for teaching, I guess is what we're getting at. If you're teaching lessons back to back, I've been known to do this. I would recommend that you teach lessons in 50-minute blocks. So a lot of people ask me, how long are your lessons? I always say 50 minutes. unless it's a really, really young student and maybe their attention span is shorter, and I would say 30 minutes. But most of the time, my lessons are 50 minutes. Now, why do I do 50 minutes? Because 50 minutes, at the end of that 50 minutes, I'm logging off, and the first thing I do is I type comments in the chat window or an email. Here's what you need to do for the last one, for the next lesson. And by the way, I need a mental break between these lessons. If you're teaching lessons back to back to back, especially if you're a working professional and you got to get to gigs and you've got a lot of these lessons back to back, you're going to need a mental break. It's hard to teach students back to back to back to back for 8 hours. I have done it before. I've done this before. I recommend that you put that 10-minute gap in there. And if you need an extra 5 minutes, message the student. Going to be with you shortly. Just give me another 5 minutes. I would make sure you keep an eye on the time. All right, so we're looking at the computer screen right now. It is very easy to get away with time. Let time just escape you. Keep an eye on the clock and make sure you're aware of where you are in time, because you don't want to lose your momentum in your lesson. It's very easy to do so. Speaking of etiquette and things, what are some ways we can get distracted? Well, the things around us, the room that we set up in, and you kind of, when you're setting up the lesson for the space, make sure I've got 3 kids. They're very familiar of my teaching schedule, and I let them know, hey, I'm teaching a lesson. They know not to knock on the door. Dad is teaching, leave them alone until it's done. They usually knock on the door. Are you done teaching? So my family has been trained over the years, so they know not to do that. But so make sure that you, I see, Jesse, you got some questions for me. We'll get to that in just a second. Make sure that you're aware, you've got a good time. You're aware of the time, I guess, is what you want to do. You don't want to go over the time, because then it starts backloading. If you have a lot of students over, is going to get a mess, and you're putting a lot of stress on yourselves. So make sure you got that under control. I would advise students to actually log in early, and I would say common practice that you tell the student they must log on 10 minutes prior to their assigned time. And then once you get that done, what I would do is the instructor would initiate the call. Now, one thing about microphones, I have seen online some freaking awesome setups, double screens. I see like ribbon mics, and it's incredible. It's incredible. Some of the setups, awesome. I'm impressed. But let's be real. Most of our students are under lockdown right now, and a lot of stores could be closing. So let's be real. Work with what the student has. Right now, I'm not using any earbuds. I've done many lessons without using earbuds. Now, I do understand that it can be extremely helpful to use the earbuds. What I have done in my office to make it in my home studio here, I have an old surround sound. This is just your old TV movie surround sound system. And what I've done, I've got the subwoofer over here. I've got it up there. I've got plugged up into my computer, and I have speakers all the way around my head. And so when I do a lesson, it sounds like they're in the room. It's great. It's great. So never had a problem with it. It's great. At the end of the lesson, I would say be very, very specific on what you need to, what's needs to be accomplished for the next lesson. High-speed internet is great. I would say that, but again, that's not always a luxury. Using your computer directly to a hard line is great if you have that, but you got, again, be flexible. I've taught students where they were really literally on the marching band field saying, hey, I'm ready for my lesson. And we start talking, they're doing a warm up on the marching band field on their phone, and I'm giving them a lesson. Jesse, you want to interject anything?
No, I'm good to go whenever you're ready.
I'd like to keep going, but if there's a burning question, I can do that.
No, I have a list of some leading questions here that I think connect into what you're talking about. So finish up, and you let me know when you want some, and we'll go from there.
I'm gonna blaze through this, and we're gonna take all the questions that you have.
You got it. Yeah, and to the people out there, I'm noting your questions as they come through the comments. So you should have your answers coming up here soon.
Great, Jesse. I would say that again, I've taught phone, lessons over my phone, iPad, or computer. It's great. Just know that the sound on the internet, the sound. I think Justin talked about this before. The sound is compressed. Be patient and flexible. This is my approach when I teach online. What I'm going to do is I'm looking at, I'm listening for notes, rhythm. Maybe it's phrasing. Maybe it's improvisational ideas, motivic development. How are they dealing with a chord change? There's a lot of things you can deal with. Now, when I have to deal with the knit and grit of sound, this is what I do because again, sound can be compressed. Let's take something out of the equation. This is what I'm going to do. I tell students, would you please take what we cannot put out of our hand or pocket on a daily basis? Can we take this and use this as a tool? Yes, we can. I do this consistently. It's one of the best teachers, and you don't even have to pay a dime, you just pay your phone bill. It's awesome. So what you're going to do is you take little videos, short videos, and record those and submit them to me. I find that I can kind of capture into the weeds in terms of sound most of the time. There are exceptions where there are ancient phones where the sound is a little gritty and I can't hear nothing. But for those students, I've already given them, let them borrow a college Zoom product or something like that, H4n or whatnot, so they can go around that obstacle. But as far as the phone, most people's phones, especially if it's an iPhone or something, the recording is great. I can hear what's going on. I can hear sound, especially if I put headphones on to the video that they send me. And then I can give critique on terms of their sound, which is perhaps one of the most important fundamentals that we do. So that's something that I just to kind of throw that out there. If you're sending a video, sometimes that can be a problem because of the size of the file. How do we go about doing that? It says the file is too large. What do I do? Ladies and gentlemen, Dropbox can be free, or it can pay a minimal fee and you can have that uploaded. Or you can do Google Share. There's a variety of platforms you can do. A lot of times if I send something through Gmail, it does a better job than maybe sending something through Outlook or something for some reason. But Dropbox, if you're sending a WAV file or a Google Share or something would be great. In terms of, let's keep going on. Written feedback is really great for students. If you can give them written feedback is great. Again, be free from distractions. This goes without this is so, I can't tell you how much this is so important. We're online right now. You can have, the thing about being online, you can have multiple windows open. Don't do this. Don't do this, because students will catch on, or you can catch on to a student that becomes distracted because what are they doing? They're opening up multiple windows, and not necessarily are they going to play a video game, but they could be chatting with their buddies. Or even worse, the instructor could be checking email while they're supposed to be listening to their student doing their performance. So again, let's serve the students, give them the time that they deserve. Don't open another window up and check email or go on a chat window and say, hey, you should hear this student right now. Give the student the time they deserve. Another thing, again, these thoughts are just thoughts and suggestions. I've seen some professors say, I don't like teaching online. I haven't done much of it, but I don't think it would be effective. Again, I strongly disagree with that because I have had success doing it. There's just some obstacles, different ways in teaching that you've got to overcome. But one was suggesting, I can't remember the platform they're using, but you could submit up to 5-minute videos for critique, and you can have your whole studio check it out, or you can have it just the instructor and yourself. That's awesome. That's a great way to keep things organized, but that's not an hour lesson. And again, we're living in times where social interaction is going to be extremely important. And I think you got to give them more than just submitting a video for 5 minutes. Just my 2 cents. Let's keep moving forward. Camera angle. Also, if you're going to teach over a phone, let's have our power cord handy. As a matter of fact, I would plug it into your phone and be ready, iPad or phone, have it charged. You don't want that to be a distraction, that you're low on battery. Here's another tip. If you're using your phone, put the do not disturb on there. Because if you're teaching on your phone, you get a phone call or a text, that's distracting. It may stop the signal. Don't do it. Be prepared for the teaching environment that you're going to go into. All right, let's keep moving on. In terms of scheduling, we're going at a different time period. I would urge people to keep the same lesson times, if not be flexible with the student because of everything going on. But I would assign a regular lesson time meeting because our schedules are going to get packed with teaching all these classes and things online, and there's going to be a struggle of learning the online platform. So just that's another one of my 2 cents. Moving forward. Applied lesson pedagogy. Let's talk about that. Encourage students, it's going to be okay, and use this as a, quote, gift to get it together. How many band directors have been out there? We're working on the mass, we got to get this piece done. Or we're just teaching to the concert. We're teaching to the test, right? We're teaching to the test. Let's use this as an opportunity for all of music education to get it together. Let's allow our students to learn their scales, sight read. There's all these things. Improvisation, by the way, which is a national standard in music education that a lot of times we ignore because we don't know how to do it. Let's get it together. Use this time to learn how to perform on our instruments, whether it's a young student or an older student. Use this as a time to get it together. It's a pause in life. Let's use this. Have your student warm up before the lesson unless you want to cover warm-ups. If you're going to cover warm-ups, I wouldn't have a warm-up. Warm up with them. So play, they play. You play. Art Blakey said, I heard a story once about Art Blakey. He said, Art Blakey, I don't know how to trade fours. You're playing all this stuff. He says, I play, you play. So that's how we should do our lessons. And by the way, teaching is a great, in the teaching format, role modeling is fantastic for the student. If they can hear it, maybe what's a great sound or what's a great way of expression. Let them play first, figure some things out, but then play back and forth. That's a great way to teach. Have the student log on before. We've talked about this before. I'd recommend a 10-minute break beforehand. Water is a great thing to have nearby, especially if you're teaching a lot of students. Have the student set up in a way that the posture, you can see them breathe. So if I'm sitting back here and I need to see something close up, if I'm all the way back here, that is hard to see what's going on. Now, if I get real close, I can get real close, so close where it's almost beyond the comfort level of what it's like to play, if you're a person, you're not going to get up to someone this close. But online, you can do that. You can do that and just say, I need you closer to the camera. So that if you need to get a good look at embouchure or whatnot. I'm going to do some playing for you so you can hear what this thing sounds like. So if you have a trumpet, this is the B flat trumpet, ladies and gentlemen. If I'm playing this way, what can I not see? You can't see the valves. I can't see any technique. I don't know what the heck is going on. And guess what? There's a couple other things that will happen. Your ears, the student's ears are going to hurt because you're playing right into a brick wall or a computer screen. It's going to come sounding right back. It's not good for the ears. You're also possibly going to overload the microphone. Don't do that. I would recommend, now if you're in the mid-register, I had a student Sunday that he forgot, and he kind of drifted off. We're talking back and forth, and he kind of drifted off, and he's playing like this, and it didn't short out. By the way, he was using Skype. I didn't have any problems with it because he's got a great connection out there. And he played mostly in the mid-register to lower end of the high, and I didn't have a problem. But the moment we started going to the extreme upper register, that's when we're starting to what'll happen is the sound will completely fade out. And when it fades out, just chill, just wait a second. It's going to be okay. It will fade back. You'll keep seeing the video, and you can't hear anything. So what will happen is it will eventually come back to you. It's all good. Just hang in there, relax. So what I would recommend is have that when you're talking face to face is completely cool. turn this way, or you can turn this way. I would just make sure that you're maybe a different spot. And by the way, you can have students, I know brass players like to stand. Just position the camera and you can stand up. It's completely cool. I like to see how they breathe. I like to see what their posture is like. It's completely cool. Now I'm gonna play a little bit for you just to kind of give you an idea what this sounds like. By the way, I'm using the computer. I'm not using an external microphone. I'm using an iMac right now. I'm using the microphone and the camera that's going on here. So I'm just going to play something relatively short where it's going to be, I'm going to go from fairly soft to something a little bit louder just to see what happens. All right. Hopefully, we haven't shorted out. Maybe we have.
You did not short out. When you went up into the upper register, the compressor kicked in.
Yes, and I did that on purpose because I turned this over to here. So here's another thing. If I play, this is where I was talking to Jesse the other day about this. If you play in the upper register, this is kind of like being on if you're a vocalist, you gotta be, or if you're performing on a microphone, you kind of have to back off from it and then come back up. One of these adjustment things. So if I'm playing the upper register, maybe back off a little bit. How is that? So you kind of go back and forth and see again, this is trial and error, figuring out how to make things work better. Microphones can be a great thing. I own a few, and I do from time to time, I will experiment with some of that. Here's some other cool things. Again, modeling is a great way to teach. Be creative in your assignments. Here's a thing about getting it together. I had a conversation with Branford Marcellus, and he was saying, we're talking about listening, the importance of listening. A lot of times we don't take pay enough attention to the art of listening. What I do for every one of my students is I have them listen to about 5 artists. We say, okay, listen to 5 artists. Sometimes it's specific. I give them specific artists. Other times I leave it wide open. The first assignment, I say, hey, go listen to these people and just reflect. I have them write a couple paragraphs on it. You're good to go. Let me see what you've listened to. When they come back, they don't have to read it verbatim. I want them to kind of summarize in their own words what they listen to. I can tell how they're listening. Then we talk about the principles of active listening. We talk about how do we go about learning this, getting that stuff together. And then what I would do is outside of that, I would assign more recordings to listen to. From week to week, if they're listening to 5 artists, if they keep writing the same thing, they start to realize maybe I need to be listening to things in a different way. It also provides a map towards progress and their own personal development. People that study with me are exposed to so much music, so many artists, that they will discover their own path. What path do I need to go down, to the point of what equipment do I play? What songs do I need to transcribe? All these things come into play. So again, not that you have to, this is what works for me. I can't tell you how much these listening assignments have benefited my students in the grand scheme of things. My students are unreal how much of a benefit this helps students, especially students that are going to really do this for a living. If they're taking it real serious, or if they want to be on a really high level, it opens their ears up to things they've never heard before. And I tell you, it's extremely beneficial. You can also use play-alongs during this. Make sure that if you're using a play-along or a metronome, make sure those things are playing from their side of things. Okay, so make sure that you can still hear it on your end. Just have them turn up the volume. You can hear a play along or a metronome. All these things are fine. You can just have them pull up a separate window if they don't have something nearby. Or I've had a student just use they're on the computer and they use their phone for a metronome and it works fine. Someone did it on Sunday. But again, make sure it's on their side. If you try to play on our side, then what will happen is there will be a delay. Have your students record themselves, send in recordings. Before you log off, I would summarize the lesson and what needs to go, what you needs to be prepared for the next lesson. Be patient with students. This is a new platform. Again, the social media groups like Jam of the Week or Hey, what are you shedding on? Or some of those things can be extremely beneficial. Geez, wouldn't this be a great time to find out who are the people behind this music? Not only the musician, what are the notes and rhythms and phrasings and what are ways to improvise, but who are these people that we look up to? Who is Lee Morgan? Who's Clifford Brown? Who's Louis Armstrong? Who's Dizzy Gillespie? Who's Sonny Stitt? Who's Art Blakey? I mean, who are these individuals? Learn a little bit about history. Go listen to the recordings. Give your students readings. It's okay to read. We're in school. It's okay to be educated. Most of us are in school. You can do that. That could be a part of the creative assignments that we're into this online format now to learn about history. Who are these people? What are they about? Why did this music come about? I think it's extremely important to know who the people are that created this music. Understand that. Talk out to professionals. Reach out to the greats and see if they've got input on some of these things. Do some research. There's articles out there. I know Keith Johnson's got a great book on the art of trumpet playing. It's a great read. Kenny Werner has the Effortless Mastery. That's fantastic. The Inner Game of Music, Inner Game of Tennis. All these things are great, and we don't take time to do it during the regular school year because there's just too much going on. Well, guess what? You got time right now to take advantage of that. If you've got an advanced student, I was telling someone the other day, if you really want to separate yourself from the good player, a great player, why don't you try composing something? Try creative practice. Try to incorporate composition into their regular practice regimen. Okay, let's say we got a lesson. It's at 11 o'clock. 10:50, I'm going to log in. I'm going to review the lessons because I remember I put at the end of the lesson, I summarized it in an email or a chat. If I have it in a chat, sometimes I'll take my phone, snap the picture, and then when I log on to the computer, I can look without separating a window. I can see what did I assign to a student. If you have a lot of students, it's extremely helpful. It's hard to remember, tons and tons of students. I teach in a college environment and I teach privately online. And so if you have a huge volume of students, most of the time I can remember what's expected. But if you want to get into the weeds of things, it's great to have that summary. So 10 minutes prior to the lesson, I'm going to log in. I'm going to see what did I assign for the last time, and then we're gonna get to it. Hopefully that student's online. I'm gonna reach out to them. We're gonna start talking at 2 o'clock, at 2:01. Hey, greet. Hey, how are things? Don't even talk about music. How are things? Greet you. Be social. Be personable. Even on the line, you can do this. Don't be this stoic. All right, let's hear the Mixolydian scale at 90. Quarter note equals 90. No, let's be personable people. We're human beings. Let's interact even online. Explain to the student what did you listen to. Invite a conversation that kind of starts that lesson time. The clock is ticking. Okay, so what did they listen to? Evaluate how they're listening and cultivate that into their own development. I will take about, and this may be a lot for some, but I will take almost 15 minutes or 10 to 15 minutes to talk about what they've listened to and how they see that being a part of their development, or what are some possible listenings for the next week. Again, sometimes I leave that open-ended and they're very excited if I do that. Or I'll say, you need to focus on vibrato. Let's listen to these players, or let's focus on the blues. Let's listen to this player. And it works really well. At 2:15, we're working on technical exercises. I give them very specific things. Work out of this book, work out of that book. All right, I'm going to tell you this. If I'm working with a student, sometimes the hard stuff, we don't want to work on the hard stuff. So this is what happens is the fundamentals is extremely important, but students don't want to do it, especially if we're not there's this, if we're not face to face and in the same room with that student, you got to stress the importance of the fundamentals, because that's the key to progression and student development. So I had a student that literally told me this about, I don't know, 8 months ago. He was an online student who said, "Hey, Doc, I don't really want to talk about fundamentals anymore. Can we just, essentially, can you give me the answers to the test?" And so I had him get this Scott Belk's lip flexibility book. It sounds cool in the woodshed, and you can go in there and play, and it sounds great. He's all about it. Now because he's so pumped about that, we're able to explore other musical possibilities. So be aware of the resources out there. If a student doesn't really care for a certain thing, find ways to reach that student. After that 15-minute, 20-minute thing, I've segment of fundamentals. I'll move to the repertoire, and after that repertoire section, I will summarize and move on. General thoughts that just to wrap up things before we take a quick question and answer here. Be empathetic during this time. Assign realistic assignments. Don't pile tons and tons of work on them, but still give them projects that will be essential to their development that they can do from home, and kind of keep them inspired. Work from I would encourage students to start practicing from a place of inspiration. Encourage them to check out a YouTube recording before they even pick up their instrument. Incorporate all this listening. Be reasonable with your expectations. Remember the small battles in the woodshed. If you give them smaller things of fundamentals, sometimes that can make really profound, is putting a microscope on the things they need to work on. It can be a great way to work on a larger problem. Be flexible, be prepared, and have a plan for your online lesson. Structure is extremely important. Again, like technology, it is always changing, and by all means, I'm not the end-all authority on this. We all can contribute to the whole of music education. And again, I would encourage you to check out higher ed music lessons in the time of COVID-19, coronavirus, or the Jazz Education Network. I believe will be putting up numerous workshops like these, or other resources online. NAFME, I think, is doing some things. I'm constantly getting emails. My phone was ringing off the hook. I always advertise every month, "Hey, I'm sending invoices for lessons if anybody's interested." I've been doing this for years. So when this happened, my phone was ringing off the hook from various universities and professionals all over the nation. I think at this time we'll take some questions if you've got some, Jesse.
I do. Thank you, Matt. It's awesome to see the questions that are coming in, because we've got questions coming from educators, from professional musicians, from people who do both, like yourself.
Right.
And so I'm going to try to hit a really wide swath of topics, because there are some
Sounds
from the
awesome.
pedagogical all the way to marketing yourself, and your lessons. This is a one that was posted earlier in the stream of comments, but I think it's one that is pertinent, and it comes from Steven Saxon. It's not so much as a question, but I'm going to rephrase it as a question. He's asking about copyright, and in this age where we're moving everything to online, regarding posting all content online with any particular time frame, we need to be careful about copyright restrictions, not just published materials that we may be scanning and posting, but also posting our original materials without proper security and restrictions. So, do you have any experience with that? What's your advice there?
Yeah, so when I was chair of a music department in New Mexico for a while, and I went to the NASM. That's where a big conference for all the deans and directors and chairs that go together and talk about various aspects within their program. And one of the sessions that I went to was dealing with copyright. One of the ways you can go about doing it, especially if you're using like a Blackboard course or something like that, is to use YouTube. YouTube, the copyright, if you use that YouTube and put it out there, if there's a problem, YouTube will take it down. Trust me, YouTube will take it down. But that's a way to COA, if we're talking about that. I think that's one way we can kind of go about doing that. In terms of there are, as far as like trumpet related, Charlier etudes have now become public domain. So maybe look for things that are public domain that you can post up. It's beautiful music, beautiful etudes that you can have your trumpet players work on if they're a little bit more advanced. But you just gotta have to look under rocks and find out what would be available to your students. And if you write something, another thing you can do is maybe put it on a closed Facebook group, and then make it available in something just for you, and just tell your students not to share it. It's one of those things where you're gonna have, it is an important fact to be aware of copyright. We certainly don't. I'm not going to go copy Scott Belk's book and tell them to go. I'm going to say order Scott Belk's book. That's what I'm going to do. So just keep those things in mind in terms of copyright.
Excellent. Thank you, Matt. All right, we've got a lot here. So yeah, let's see if we can't rip through some of these. So here is it's a topic that a lot of people are asking about. So can I play with another person simultaneously / what do you suggest for people who make duets a part of their daily lesson, or are looking to play with the other person? Some people are asking about ways to minimize lag for small ensemble rehearsals. What's your advice here?
I've seen some videos out there, and I'm not going to be the authority because most of the time I do not teach in this manner. I'm not going to play along with you because there is that lag in between, and so it becomes extremely frustrating to try to do that. However, there are some. I think I saw a jazz quartet that they were all over the nation playing at different spots, and they put everything together, and it sounded pretty decent. But in order to do all of that, you've got to have the technology behind it, and that's where the problem is going to exist. Is do you have all these microphones? Do you have everything set up on internet? All these different connections. Too many variables. I wouldn't do it. Is my recommendation. That's I think what Justin was stating as well.
Yes, Justin was stating the same thing, and as you stated, Justin also said, in lieu of trying to do those things, it would be better to work on fundamentals and basics than dealing with the
Right.
headaches of technology.
Let's take a pause for the cause and get it together.
Here's some more practical things. So how about motivation and engagement and changing students' perspectives, or changing for those who are teaching in secondary or in middle schools, changing the perspective about an online lesson being a waste of time?
So this is where it's going to come. It will fall upon the shoulder of the educator. You've got to be passionate about what it is that you're doing. And most of us that are in this profession are passionate. My students can feel the passion from me when I work with them. If they hear me play or talk about music, I do this quite a bit on a daily basis. It's infectious. I think that you have to, again, practice from a place of inspiration. Maybe the teacher needs to be inspired before working with the students. So maybe even take a step back further and watch a great concert DVD or YouTube concert before you start teaching. Get motivated, and then start reaching out to that student. Give the students some things to check out. Isn't this the greatest Isn't this, man, listen to this player. Isn't this a fantastic player? Give them specific things to listen for. And then as a motivator, give them, I put this in my handout. If you're working on a specific thing, especially in terms of fundamentals, work on something where it's concrete, get this to a certain tempo. And then after that, that's great. Reinforce positive. Hey, you did a fantastic job. We're going to go ahead. I want you to recycle what you did before, and we're going to do this next week to make sure it's better. Or, hey, it's great. It's great. So now I want you to increase that tempo, but now we're going to turn the next 2 pages in this book. You've made it past the barrier, so you're going to go into this. That could be a great motivator. Man, I'm blazing through this book. Give them small battles to win and accomplish.
Great advice. Here's a question that's been coming in a lot, and I'm going to read it from, this is from our friend Les Rose in California. He is asking about, other than the tips on structuring your lessons, from a business perspective, as someone who's been doing this for a while, what would be the best first step in starting an online teaching practice? And he names some things he wants to know about. Setting up a PayPal account, and other people have asked, how would you market or advertise? Would you use YouTube or other formats? Do you post your lessons? Do you have other a library of lessons that you have available for people to purchase other than having in-person lessons with you? We've been getting this types of questions from
Right. And
our professional colleagues about how to start an online teaching practice and
right.
market it.
There are some companies out there. I think it's One Step Studio, or I can't remember the name of. There's Sean Jones has got some stuff out there where you can buy like a whole library of small lessons that are out there. So there's different companies that kind of put this out. There's some drummers that have put out here's a packaging. If you buy this, you can get so many lessons. Or there's jazz vocabulary, and there's these kind of segmented lessons. From a business perspective, I kind of it spreads by word of mouth. If you have one successful student, another one say, "Hey, great! This parent's going to talk, but man, we have our online instructor. Man, the commute's awesome. It's right. I don't have to go anywhere. I just go right in my living room, and one kid gets his lesson in a garage." I think it spreads by word of mouth. I think that in terms of marketing yourself, couple things on that. I have a website, www.mattletter.com. I got to update some videos. Some of those videos are older, but I have videos up there, and it's a presence online. If you have a website that you can kind of say, "This is what I'm about. This is who I am." They can see what you look like. Here's my my experience. Here's some examples of my playing. I do offer lessons, and that's a great way to go about doing it. Again, social media is a great thing. I have some friends, colleagues of mine, and I was like this when I was younger, many years ago. I was on a big band gig, and this vocalist asked me, she goes, "Are you on Facebook?" I was like, "No, I'm not 12 years old. I'm not on Facebook." But Facebook become a different thing where I'm able to use it as a marketing thing, and I constantly put information out, whether it's like, "Hey, I'm giving invoices for the month of March," and I have students say, "Hey, can I join your studio?" Absolutely. Let's do that. I've had military groups contact me. I've had secondary schools. I've had some students from North Texas contact me. I've had, all over the place, Canada, Europe, everywhere contact me. And it's word of mouth. It's just a snowballing thing. Now, in terms of payment, how do we handle that? I give out PayPal invoices unless it's somebody I know and they could just send me funds a different way. But most of my students, I have a PayPal. It's really clean. You can go into invoices. You go into PayPal and say, "Here's how many lessons do you want this month?" And I kind of set it up and say, "Hey, I always pay by the month instead of just going piecemeal. I got too many things going on in my life. I freelance. I'm a husband and father. I'm a college educator. Just too much going on, and I'm routinely presenting at conferences and such. So I don't have time to deal with. I want to add this lesson this week and this lesson this week. So I just say, "Hey, you want 2 lessons this month, 4 lessons this month," and then I add whatever go under PayPal estimator. You can kind of see what the PayPal charge is going to be. Add that to it. Send the invoice off. It's paid. Boom. You're good. I don't withdraw that to the end of the month so that I know all the lessons are taken care of for that time period. That was a lot. I hope that answered all the pertinent questions.
It did, and I'm going to have you wrap it up with answering the first, which is, what would be your first step? If you don't have an online teaching studio, where would you start today?
If I did not have an online studio, what I would do, I think pictures speak 1,000 words. I think I'd have a promo picture. I would create, there's some free online resources. You can create your own website and put information out there. I think you need to have a presence online. Then use your social network. Use Jazz Education, one of the key words, Jen, network is in there. Use your network. Reach out to fellow colleagues. "Hey, I'm out of work right now. I'm free and available." Contact, one person's going to know 10 other people, and just snowball that. You could spend hours, days sending emails, messages on social media. If I'm promoting an event or something like that, I do this, and it's a way you can go about in terms of marketing. Facebook has got a great ad thing where you can actually boost it and select certain audiences, where you can put a Facebook ad out there. Maybe give a sample lesson, do a quick video. Here's a sample of what my lessons can do, and then just kind of throw everything out there. I think I think first step is you got to get organized and throw yourself out there.
All right, I've got a 2-part question. I apologize if I butcher anyone's name. This is from JJ Padishal. And the question was, with advancements in technology, do you find students prefer to study materials in more of a digital format, or do they still like access to hard copy books, ability to print off handouts, etc.? And JJ also asked in a separate question about the incorporation of YouTube videos into your lessons. So how about
Yes.
the balance between digital and print and what students prefer?
Right. I think that's a split. Some students prefer some people like to be tech savvy and use the digital format of things. Most of my students use hard copies, almost all of them. In fact, I went to a clinic not too long ago where they were talking about an orchestral musician that everywhere he traveled on the bus, he had the hard copies of everything, because there's something about, you can memorize up to a certain point, you can memorize all your regular routine of things, but reading, forcing yourself to look at the things on the page. And a lot of times, I mean, I know there's some big bands that are using iPads to read things, but my 2 cents is most of the time you're going to be reading printed music. And so kind of keep things, not like you can't read it makes it convenient to travel and so forth. You don't have to bring a whole encyclopedia of music with you. But I would say it's more beneficial to look at music on the page, because that's what you're going to encounter in real life, more than less, more, just on a more of the regular basis.
So a follow-up question on that. This comes from Dave Hurd. Dave asked, in terms of seeing the music, he asked, how about positioning the computer or camera behind you facing the music? In other words, kind of like the same perspective, I believe, as if a student were standing shoulder to shoulder with you. Do
You
you think that
can.
works at all?
I think you could. I don't do that. I think you. What I do is usually have the student. He's got a music stand right there, looking at the music, and I've got the music on my end, and I'm looking at the same thing. If he's got an all-state, he's going out for all-state jazz or all-state. He emails me the PDF. I have a separate window right next to my screen. If you do an external camera, sometimes you can run into some issues. Technical issues with that. So I kind of don't want to deal with adding more to the pile of things to worry about. So I kind of keep things as simple as possible.
All right, here's some more, another practical question. What do you recommend as far as coming up with your rate for your online lessons versus your in-person lessons?
My rate is the same. That's what I do, because I find that my time, you're buying someone's time. And so I'm a very busy individual, as stating. And when you're buying my time, I typically charge $1 a minute. So I'll throw it out there. I teach $50 for 50 minutes for lessons. And I don't think it's unreasonable, because you also have to think about the geographic area you live in. But where I'm living in Alabama currently, and I have a student in New England. That's $50 is that much to them. Where around here that might be a lot. But that doesn't mean they can't take a lesson. They can maybe they're only take 1 lesson a month or 2 lessons a month, and where someone in New England or someone that's more well off is going to take more lessons, a lesson per week. But I think regardless of whether you're in time or you're in person or you're online, I don't feel like my teaching is degraded so much that I need to bring down my rate because I'm not being as effective. Because again, I've had proven success. I've been teaching for over 10 years online, and I have proven success. So I'm not going to drop my rate because I feel like, it's not as great as my in-person lesson. I give everything I am into the lesson. I try to give feedback. I have them submit recordings. I'm constantly putting blood, sweat, and tears into all my students, whether they're in person or online.
All right. How about, here's one that kind of keeps coming over in different formats, and I'm going to kind of try to tie two sides together. We're getting asked a lot about how you provide meaningful feedback and a record of the details of your lessons, both to your students and or their parents, but also we have a lot of professional educators and I think some college professors out there who are asking how you would try to maintain accountability to your department supervisor or chair during a time where you're out of school and there is no in-person accountability.
Right. I had, in terms of that, I have a colleague of mine that's in Texas. He records every lesson. And then if a student or faculty member ever became upset of a particular grade, he'd say, well, let's listen to like 5 lessons and see what grade do you think I should give, and that kind of thing. I think in terms of accountability, keeping written records is important. I think that you can email, again, at the end of every lesson, I'm saying, I give them simple feedback, say, here's what I'm hearing, again, just to summarize the lesson, boom, 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 a couple different statements, and I say, here's what I'm expecting for the next lesson. Another thing you can do, I have this is called the Musician's Planner. This is a great, it's $9.99, not too expensive at all. It's kind of like a practice journal, and it kind of lists what they're expected to do, what they need to do, how are they practicing every week. And this is an awesome product where I have all my students get that, and I also check those things out so that I have a written record. And a lot of times, in terms of accountability for the college or something, it comes down to my written record of things of how's a student doing in my grade book or in the comments at the end of each lesson. And a lot of times in my in-person lessons at college, for example, I would write them down on my musician's plan in the musician planner.
So we have a follow-up there. So do you record your lessons for the
I do
same
not
reasons?
record my lessons, and I know that Justin on the last lesson said make sure you record every lesson. He had a bold-face print on his handout. I do not record my lessons, but I do keep written records of like what they need to be doing from one lesson to the next, and but I do not record them.
How do you share those records with your students? Like, do you use a Google document? Do you use Evernote? How do you share
Right.
your
So,
written log and
a
your
lot of
and your
times
assignments?
a lot of times at the college and sometimes in my in-person or on my online students, what I will do is email them again at the end of a lesson, at the end of every single lesson. I hit that 50-minute mark. Goodbye, great job. I immediately type an email. Here's what I'm hearing that as we summarize in this lesson, blah, 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 blah. Here's what is expected in the next lesson. This is what I'm expecting. And then that is my written record of what is happening.
Here's a big question. We've got maybe 10 different versions of this question, and I know we covered it a little bit in Justin's workshop, but tone quality.
Right.
How is this something that we should be working on when we're dealing with the way that audio is transmitted over the internet? Is it a throwaway? How do you assess tone quality when you have
Okay.
these limitations?
Great question. It's one of the most important fundamental things that we do is sound. And so that's extremely important. So how do we go about doing that? Well, the most basic forms of sound, especially the younger student, I can hear it. Even as if we're over this connection right now, I could hear some of the basics of it. If I have to get into the weeds of things, I will have them record on their iPhone at a separate time, whether an offline. Send that to me. Send me a recording of you playing this etude or this scale or this exercise, and let me listen to it. And at that point, I'm putting my headphones on and I'm listening to sound. If they have technology at their fingers, I recommend a lot of my college students purchase a Zoom H4n or some of these higher end recording devices, and that's even more where even a better solution where you can get almost CD quality of sound.
All right, here's a curveball, but it's a good one. And let me find it here. I lost it, but I will summarize it. And oh, here it is. It's from Vicki Lester Bloom. So this deals with the quick closure of schools, and so this is due to the closure of our schools with the health issues. A few of our high school students were dismissed so quickly that they were not even given a chance to get their music or their instrument to take home with them. And they're now not allowed back in the building to get anything. So do you have any recommendations on what you could do with these students through this medium to prepare and help them progress musically when they come back?
Right. Brass players, you can do. You Google like the pencil exercise. You can do some embouchure things. Warburton makes a peat product that some people believe is beneficial. Arturo's got Sando valves where you kind of play along with those things. They're not too bad. But aside from those kinds of things, again, I can't urge enough the importance of listening and history. Take it from a different perspective. If you don't have an instrument together, treat it differently. Let's learn something about how to listen to music. I think it is unreal how much we don't talk about how to listen. How do we listen instead of just looking at a recording from a very broad sense? Can we listen to layers, music in layers? Everyone has a skill. Everyone can eavesdrop. If someone hears your name over in this conversation, you're in this conversation, you're hearing both at the same time. You can do this, apply it to music. And I think talking about active listening principles, I think learning theory might be a great thing. If they have a keyboard, that might be great to learn how to do something on the piano. Some of the greatest musicians I know are versed in playing the piano. So that might be a possibility. But again, for the masses, I would say probably your best bet, maybe some music theory things. How do you make a minor scale? You talk about chords if you want to, but in a very general sense, I would keep people motivated and excited about music by exposing them to great music versus a YouTube concert or something, and maybe walk them through it. Do it like a lecture style, like Justin was talking about. Post a YouTube concert. We're going to watch this concert together, and turn off the comments and just have the teacher say, "Oh wow, listen to this." So, let it point out the important aspects of a particular piece.
All right, thanks, Matt. Do you have any other final things you want to say? I'm gonna, before we wrap up, I'm gonna show everyone, because we've gotten a question in both sessions about how to connect Zoom through Facebook, which is what we're doing today to stream this through Facebook. But before we show that and give people some parting information, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, I would add, I really appreciate the Jazz Education Network for taking the time, Sharon and Jesse and Todd Stahl and all the members of the board for providing this opportunity for educators to kind of come together. It's great when you see a larger organization kind of be the glue to bring people together. Also look at, again, social media as a possibility for reaching out. I'm happy to answer any questions. Please reach out to me on that handout. It's got my email. You reach me out through Facebook. I'm happy to help anyone. As the great Clark Terry would say, keep on keeping on.
All right. He also said, what is it? You gotta copy the right cat. What is that quote? You know it.
I mean, there's a lot of quotes out there. There's a lot of quotes.
All right, so I'm going to show everyone what we're doing today in the case that you want to replicate a similar setup and use Zoom to stream through Facebook. And so I'm going to share my screen here with everyone and hide all my questions that I've been keeping track of. But basically what you do is when you're in Zoom, you would obviously have to start a Zoom meeting. So let me bring up my window here.
Hey, Jesse, I have a screenshot because you won't be able to share your...
You want to put it up? Great.
Yeah, because you won't be able to share it live. It's weird.
See.
You know what I mean?
So yes, in Zoom, when you are in Zoom, you start your meeting and you'll have this window that Sharon's going to pull up here so you can see it. There you go. And there's these three little dots right where that blue arrow is.
Let me back up just a few screens to that share screen because I think that'd be a good place to make sense if you're new to it.
Perfect.
Okay, there we go. There's the first one.
Right. So when you open Zoom and you click share my screen, which is a big green button at the bottom, you'll be asked what you want to share. And it shows you all your different windows and also I usually just share my desktop one there because that will allow the person on the other end to see everything that you're seeing on your screen. If you select a different window, it's only going to show the person that window. So I like my person to see what I see. So you would choose desktop one and click share. And then there are some key settings that you want to make sure you have enabled, including, you can see there that little gray toolbar in the middle. Your audio settings are on the left. One of the most common issues is that you are muted. So you want to check that little area there and make sure that you have your microphone selected correctly. And the second option there is your video, but that's your video for people to see you, not necessarily for them not to see your screen. So The microphone is audio for them to hear you. The video is for them to see you. And then in the middle of your screen there, you have that green button that says New Share. And when you click that New Share button, you will get to that.
Yeah, sorry.
Yep, there you go. So now, assuming that you would be live on Zoom, you've got your audio and your video connected, and you're ready to go live on Facebook, you click this little three dot more in the bottom right-hand corner. And when you do that, you will get a number of options. And one of them now is live on Facebook. And when you click that live option, it will actually bump you into a Facebook window. So it is a good idea to be logged into Facebook in your default browser before you do the share. If you're not, you'll have to log in. But when you do log in, it will allow you to share your Zoom screen or call or whatever you have up on your screen into either a page. You can also share it into an event. You can stream live on your page. So you have to select where you want things to be shared. But I always find that the key is that little three dot where it says more. That is the key to being able to find the go live on Facebook button. Yeah, that's
Right.
the key right there.
And one additional point on that, this is Sharon. The reason you're not seeing it right now is because when I took these screenshots, I did not have that toggled on in my account. So when you set up your Zoom account behind the scenes on the web browser, that's where you'll need to toggle that you're going to allow Facebook Live. And then once you've done that, it'll show up when you click those three buttons.
And I just pasted a link in the chat of the session here to a video that will show people how to connect Zoom through Facebook. It's from Zoom's site. It's a YouTube video. All right, I think we're going to wrap up here. Matt, thank you so very much for doing this for us, for doing this for the community. We really appreciate you lending your expertise and your time. Please, if you need to get the handout, I will post a link here so that you can go and download that right as this call wraps up. We will also be sending out an email follow-up that gives you access to the video recording of this session and also a link to the handout. Please check us out online at jazzednet.org. If you're not a member, please consider becoming one. We're all about community and opportunity, and that's what brought us together today. We're on all social media at jazzednet, and we are planning on hosting some more of these, of course, as we continue to monitor the situation as everybody else is. So we hope to see you back here on Facebook sometime soon. Again, thanks to everyone, and we'll see you soon.